Okay, so IGN released its, I guess, little review for The Division yesterday, and people are in an uproar about it. Me, I'd say I'm in that boat too, just because it's clear that whoever wrote the review, what's his name, Vince Ingenito, whatever the fuck his name is. It's clear he has no idea what the fuck he's talking about and should probably never be allowed to review games again at this point. Now, IGN has a bad rep with the community, with some communities, for how they review games. And typically it's people that are mad that IGN gives certain games high scores like Call of Duty and all that other shit, but they don't like Call of Duty, so they're like, oh, why do you give Call of Duty such good reviews, but then give the game I like bad reviews? My argument with this is completely different. I understand that reviews are based off people's opinions, and some people have different opinions than I do. I, for one, love Call of Duty, but at the same time, there's other games that I like, particularly this one, that IGN gives a low score to. And it's clear they have no clue what the fuck they're talking about. And I can't blame all of IGN, because I know there has to be employees at IGN that like the game. It's just that they picked whoever decided to publish the review and gave him the go-ahead to just go ahead and be the one that was the top pick review to publish. Made a pretty bad call, because like I said, I watched the video review yesterday. The dude had no clue what the fuck he was talking about, and I pulled up the article on my phone. So let's just take a look at some of the shits that said. Okay, it's not too hard to find nice things to say about Tom Clancy's The Division, especially as it unfurls in its strong opening hours. Yeah, blah 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 blah. Let's get to the criticism. It's open world version of Manhattan is both gorgeous and authentic. Its cover-based third-person combat is sound, and its RPG elements run surprisingly deep. And yet, next to every good thing The Division does, there hangs a big, ugly asterisk. That same open world is barren and engaging. Combat gets bogged down with samey waves of walking bullet sponges, and character progression is awkwardly fractured in inconvenient ways. Outside of the tension of the PvPvE Dark Zone, there's little that makes this virtual Manhattan feel alive or dangerous. Let's stop right there. There is little that makes this virtual Manhattan feel alive or dangerous. Let's start with feel alive. Feel alive. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't most of the city abandoned? Like, I'm pretty sure most of the city is abandoned, and the only people who stayed are people that are either sick or needed help or didn't want to leave. You know, the kind of shit that happens in a post-apocalypse, where it's not a thriving, living city like you'd see in GTA. Like, what the fuck were you thinking with that comment? Or dangerous. Well, yeah, that's kind of what happens when you level up in RPGs, you dipshit. You get better, you get higher leveled, and then the people that used to wreck you, you walk all over them. That's kind of how it's happened. That's kind of how it's been in every RPG in existence. Well, not every RPG in existence, but you know what I'm talking about. Like the main ones. That's tends to be how RPGs work. Anyway, let's move on. Visually, The Division leans heavily but very effectively on the all too familiar iconography of post-biological disaster Manhattan. It's the post-apocalyptic city. It would look how you think it would look. It would look how almost every post-apocalyptic city has looked in any form of media since that's been set in a modern time period. Coming out of an early checkpoint, daylight blinded me until my eyes adjusted, and then I saw it. An improvised memorial to those who had given their lives trying to take Manhattan back from the chaos that swallowed it in the wake of an unpreceded terror attack. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, but as full, I guess this is another criticism, but as full as the world is of eerily beautiful sights to see, it's equally devoid of worthwhile things to do. Imagine an open world game with hardly any dynamic elements. Dynamic elements. What the fuck is dynamic elements? Like, what do you want? Buildings to fall from the sky like in Battlefield, and planes to come crashing down, and aliens to beam out of the outer fucking space and like zip you up in the air and be like, we're probing you. Like, what the fuck are dynamic elements? You just needed to find something negative to say about the game. I don't understand. If you say something like it's void of dynamic elements, elaborate on what you're talking about. Or worse, a long dead MMO where you and a handful of party members, should you invite folks along for some co-op, are the only people left on your server. That's bullshit. Because if you go to a safe zone, there's plenty of other people on the server. It's just there's no real way. This isn't like an open world. This isn't like World of Warcraft where like there's a whole bunch of people on the same server. That's not how it works. If everybody was on the same server, there would be no point in doing any missions at all, because the other people on that server would do the missions, and then you wouldn't be able to do the mission. I really don't think this dude has any idea how an open world shared world shooter is supposed to work. I don't think I understand that he maybe, feels like, hey, there should be more people in the world, but use your fucking brain for a second and take into account how that would work as far as mission structure goes. Anyway, let's move on. Enemy encounters are spread thin across the city like too little butter over too much bread, creating long stretches of eventless walking where very little happens. What do you think happens in a post-apocalyptic world? You walk and nothing happens for a while, and then you walk up on some action and then something goes down. That's how post-apocalyptic settings work. If you don't want to walk, fast travel. There's not going to be like helicopters flying around and cities blowing up and, badass combat around every turn. In post-apocalyptic environments, there's walking. That's how it works. Almost all the city's vehicles are kind of like destroyed. I don't understand, bro. I really don't. Alright, let's see. I walked around for minutes at a time without more than one or two small packs of easily dispatched thugs to entertain me. If you noticed on the map, there's areas to the city that are like recommended level such and such, recommended level like 15, 19, that sort of thing. If you're walking around in the area that's like level 5, but you're level 20, of course the thugs are going to be dispatched easily. That's how the fuck it works. That's how leveling works. I mean, there's no way you just started doing reviews or playing games. You have to know that that's how these things work, right? Right? So, what the fuck was this? Did the publisher just push you to, say some negative shit, or are you actually this stupid? Let's keep it moving. That would matter a lot less if there was more going on around me, but for a city of 8 million that's supposedly just been mortally wounded by a terror attack and subsequently overrun by multiple gangs of militarized fanatics, the streets are surprisingly calm. Okay, so you failed to mention the fact that there's civilians breaking into cars, looting people's corpses, getting into fights with people, and just all kinds of crazy shit going on when you're exploring the world. And then you have your enemies, and then you have people cramped up into the base of operations that you upgrade, trying to seek help and all that other shit. But that brings me to my earlier point that a lot of people tried to evacuate the city and get out of there when shit went down, before they realized it was a virus, and then they decided to close off the city and not let anybody else leave. So yes, a lot of people got out, a lot of people didn't. Like, did you even, read into the story at all? Because it seems like you just said fuck it on the story and then just started playing the game and then have no clue what the fuck you're talking about. That's mostly owing to the fact that there are virtually no random events, just illusions of them. Wait a minute, hold on. There are virtually no random events, just illusions of them. Now let's rewind to your earlier point that there's not enough people, actual players in your open world. How do you think that a random event would work in a shared world shooter like this? I don't understand. So do you expect for it to be a random event on your server or your end, but then somebody else walking throughout the city that walks past the area that you just had the random event at would basically have nothing happen? So you get all the random events, you trigger all of them, and then everybody else is just like, oh, what the fuck, and don't get anything. You're asking for things that typically come in single player open world shooters or open world RPGs in general, like say Fallout. That's probably what you were thinking of when you said open world, or what was it? What did you say again? It's probably what you were thinking of when you said random events, like, aliens fucking crashing down into the city. That doesn't typically work too well in this kind of game. Though some other IGN editors say that they've seen games dynamically fighting in the world more than 50 hours played, I never did. So other editors called you out on your shit right then and there. But you were like, oh no bro, I didn't see it. Well, I've played the game a good length of time now, and I'm pretty sure I saw gangs fighting each other in the city. Now granted, I could agree with you that yeah, it could happen more. It would be nice to see, like all out gang warfare and people taking over the city. So I can kind of agree with that criticism. But to say that you never saw it at all shows that you weren't paying too much attention, because it does happen. It just doesn't happen enough. What's more, these preset one-on-one missions are all minor variations or one of a few simple mission types, and once you've done them all in the zone, there's no material reason to come back to that location besides some insequential collectibles that I quickly gave up on grabbing, even when they were only steps out of my way. So let me get this straight. You were complaining that there's nothing to do in the game as far as exploration goes, and the city is just so devoid and so empty and so stripped of anything for you to do. Then the game's like, hey, you're high enough level to explore and go into buildings and just look around, explore little dressers and whatever, and just look for loot, look for items, look for collectibles, and you don't want to do any of that, but have the nerve to complain that there's nothing for you to do in the city once you've done the missions. I'm not gonna say that the map is huge, but it's a pretty good size map. There's plenty for you to explore and do. It's just a post-apocalyptic world. There's not gonna be people walking on the street corner like, hey, hello sir, how are you doing, how's your day, and just the same kind of shit that you'll see in GTA. It's not a GTA game. All this comes together with Manhattan's grid-like structure to make the act of exploration tedious when it should be exciting. A good open world teases you off the path from A to B with the promise of discovery and emergent shenanigans. All I really got from The Division was a breadcrumb trail to follow through a series of 90-degree turns with some conveniently placed stuff to shoot at the end. Okay, let's read that one more time. All I really got from The Division was a breadcrumb trail to follow through a series of 90-degree turns with some conveniently placed stuff to shoot at. And let's rewind even earlier than that. A good open world shooter teases you off the path from A to B with the promise of discovery and emergent shenanigans. You know, that same shit that you were just complaining that you didn't want to mess with, you know, like collectibles, loot, you know, random encounters with, you know, people out in the city doing all kinds of things, from like tearing each other apart to looting cars to you know, just walking around helpless begging for help to, you know, just a whole bunch of things. But, you know, you completely ignored all that, and then no less than a few sentences down in the article complain that all the Division did was give you a breadcrumb trail to follow. What? To its credit, shooting those unfortunate looters and mercenaries does feel pretty good, if a bit standard. The gunplay model is a few steps toward the technical realism of most Tom Clancy branded games, from the run and gun action of Gears of War, but not many. Well, it's a third-person shooter. What do you want it to do? I mean, you aim at things in third person, and you shoot them. That's what you do in the genre. It's a third-person shooter. Let me repeat myself. You shoot things in third person. The same thing that you've been doing since the genre was established. It's kind of how the genre works. That's why it's a genre. Because, you know, other games have you shoot in third person. This game has you shoot in third person. That's how it works, dude. Why do they even let you do reviews? The only difference between... Okay. Things like muzzle travel, and bullet spread play a big enough role that guns feel distinct from one another. The M4, for instance, is a reliable mid-range stopgap you'd expect it to be, while the 7.2mm sitting AK-47 starts bucking like a mule by the time the second or third round has left the muzzle. One is better for sustained fire, the other is better if fired in short bursts to inflict maximum damage in a short span before ducking back behind cover. And cover is important as covering fire, since enemies can actually be properly suppressed by firing at them when they're behind cover. Should you bring along a friend or three, this makes co-op tactics particularly rewarding, especially when one of your squad mates suppresses a deadly enemy sniper while you flank around and lace into them. Yeah, I agree with that. However, the bullet sponginess of the enemies and their tendency to shrug off torrents of small arms fire without so much as flinching does rob the shooting of tactical power that should come with unloading a street sweeper into some poor fool's chest at point blank range. You know, the same guys you were just complaining were too easy, you're now complaining that they're too hard because they're bullet spongy. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't these enemies have levels? They have levels, right? You know? The kind of shit that's in RPGs. So, of course, you know, since it's, you know, has RPG elements, it's gonna follow the same pattern that most other RPGs follow, where when you're at that enemy's level or a little bit higher, so you do more damage. But if you're more akin to at that enemy's level or below that enemy's level, it's gonna seem kind of bullet spongy because, you know, they take shots. And here's the thing, you can complain about the bullet sponginess all you want to, IGN, But I know damn well that if the guys actually went down in the shots that you wanted them to, you'd be sitting there complaining about how, the game's too easy, like you did earlier, but somehow still complain that it's too hard now. But you'd be even more inclined to complain that the game is too easy because, the enemies are actually going down in the shots you want them to. So really, at this point, it seems like you're just finding the way it is to complain. This exemplifies a larger set of problems that plague the Division. The clash between its grounded, realistic look and its conventions of RPG gameplay. Years of virtual experience in other shooters have taught me that a Saga 12 will send a person tumbling to the ground in one, maybe two shots, but here, that same gun may take a full clip to get the job done. Getting a Saga 12 with better stops will obviously make them go down faster, but the problem is that good progression system needs more powerful motivation than just bigger numbers. The long-term gear game in most great RPGs relies on what the hell? You probably should have edited this article better, bro. Among other things, a sort of lustful visual progression that makes you eager to see how the next drop will change the look of your character. But the only difference between the level 5 scar I used at the start of my journey and the level 28 version I ended it with were the size of the numbers that popped on my enemies' heads. Yeah. That's what sets this game apart from, Destiny. Because let's say you have a low level weapon, but you like the way it looks compared to the high level weapon. And you'd really just prefer it if, the weapons look the same, but you got higher levels of that weapon because you don't want the ugly higher level weapon. This game is more akin to that than, say, Destiny, where, high level gear and high level weapons, change the look of your character distinctly. And, perhaps you don't like the look of how everything looks, and you're pretty much stuck with that. This game alleviates that problem by, letting you change the look of your guns with skins, or letting you change the look of your character with, jackets, shirts, pants, that sort of thing, boots, all that other good stuff, hats, stuff that actually lets you change the look, while most of your gear that actually matters is really just the same gear with more of a higher numbers game, so that you don't, you're not forced into having some ugly gear that's just a higher level just because the game told you here this gear is, it's higher level. Still, the mere fact that the action leans so heavily on sharp aim and smart tactics makes it rewarding when the last leathery tough foe in a pack finally goes down. But the game's too easy, right? That goes double for the main story missions, which throw you headlong into some seriously heated firefights. Here, the action is concentrated and highly demanding, particularly with a squad of 4 using complementary skill loadouts. These sections are the highlights of the Division. Hunkering down behind a teammate's deployed piece of cover with bullets whizzing overhead, while one of my sentry turrets suppresses and stuns groups of enemies for another squad mate to light up with a incendiary seeker mine. Blah 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 blah. Thankfully, you can easily matchmake and fast travel directly to these gyms. A welcome convenience that allows you to bypass parts of the open world slog. I don't like, what do I even say to you anymore? Not for long though. You'll rarely come out of one mission with the gear, skills, and level to be successful in the next. So it's back onto those empty streets to gain progress, to again progress your character. The RPG elements in the Division are more interesting than I expected, but like everything else they too have their problem. Alright. What? If I'm stuttering a bit, it's because I'm trying to, take a look at my mic audio to make sure it's right while still trying to, read the article. Because I watched the video review, but it was like, I figured that was a bad idea to try to record with. 3 core stats that drive your character's performance: firearms, stamina, and electronics. Really move the needle to the point where changing out just one piece of gear can make differences you'll immediately notice in your next battle. One particular holster single-handedly increased my health pool by around 25%, which went a long way towards enabling my reckless desire to aggressively close into shotgun range. The chance for substantial gains in power makes gear choices engaging almost right away. Now let's rewind a bit, because you were complaining that, the shotgun doesn't do enough damage, but if it did, kill in 1 and 2 shots, you'd be complaining that it is ridiculously overpowered, and yada yada yada. There's no challenge because you can just run up and shotgun people to the face, right? Because that's how you like to play the game, right? But just what the fuck were you thinking with this review? The problem is how fragmented the various ways of progressing are. The most reliable way to get great gear is through the Dark Zone, the Division's walled-off PvPvE area, where everybody's out for themselves, and turning your back on your ally is a good way to find yourself dead. The catch: you don't gain any XP toward your character progression level there. Even if you did, new skills don't come with levels, but by upgrading different parts of your personal base, which you'll need from supply points provided by side missions that don't dole out much XP for great gear or reward. So you could be a high level character with only average gear and a few skills, a character with tons of skills but poor gear and a low level, or somewhere in between. It's a muddled system that makes it hard to accurately gauge just how strong you really are. As a result, it's easy to get in over your head in a mission that your character level indicates that you can handle. No, it's really not. If you actually took the time to, do the damn objectives and the missions, and actually play the game the way the developers intended for you to play it, you'd really find that you unlock things at a pretty generous rate. Like, all you have to do to get your skills up is upgrade your base. The thing that the game tells you to upgrade in like the first mission. And as far as the Dark Zone goes, yeah, that's to get you better gear. That's how it works. That's kind of why it said, some of the best loot in the game is in the Dark Zone. And why would you need to earn XP for your character in the Dark Zone? Because that would make you ridiculously overpowered when it came to other characters in the Dark Zone. That's kind of why the game separates, the levels of people who play together in the Dark Zone, so that everybody is, kind of in the same boat, but not too ridiculously overpowered. And it kind of, melds down. It kind of, I guess to me it kind of feels like it does the thing Destiny does, where it puts everybody in that level range on the same page, so somebody who's not, a few levels higher than you is not doing ridiculous amounts of damage. So yeah, you earn Dark Zone ranks in the Dark Zone that help you buy better gear. It's more of a ranked area in which if you do well, you're rewarded for doing well. If you do poorly, you're penalized for doing poorly. There's no reason for you to be earning XP, to be using it to earn XP to, basically take a shortcut to all the other ways the game has to offer for you to, make experience. That's what separates that area from, the rest of the map in the game. What's more, having to return to your base in order to spend points and gain other benefits is an odd, regularly inconvenient bit of design. Finally have enough points for that new skill mod, time to fast travel back to base cue long load time. Well, yeah, I'd agree the load times are kind of long, but it's a shared world shooter, that's to be expected. Walk to the appropriate wing of base for the upgrade you want to purchase. Fast travel back to the safe house nearest to you, where you just were, and then finally back to the exact location of whatever you were doing. Or, you could finish what you were doing, go back once you're done with whatever you were doing, and upgrade the base, and then take on a new task. Why would you stop in the middle of whatever you're doing to go purchase an upgrade? I don't understand why you would do that, unless you were deliberately trying to make the game harder for yourself and more annoying for yourself. There's literally no reason to do what you just complained you had to do. Like, do you even know how to play video games? Anyway, let's skip ahead. Sadly, once you do hit the level cap of 30, the division's endgame is pretty thin. The only newish type of content you get access to is daily challenges, which consist of replaying the same story missions with even spongier enemies. That's why they call it daily missions. They're missions that are for high level players to add more challenge. Like, you want these guys to go down in 2 or 3 shots, and then if they did that, you'd be complaining that there's not enough meat to them. They're not exactly difficult enough, and the game's too difficult. And if they made you go down in 2 or 3 shots, you'd be complaining that the game is too difficult. But you want the enemies to go down in 2 or 3 shots because I don't fucking know. I really don't. At this point, I'm convinced you don't know what an RPG is. What? Replaying the same, not so thrilling. Blah, 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 blah. What can be thrilling at this stage is diving into the Dark Zone, because it's the only place in the entire game where you can actually run into other players in a dynamic setting and see unpredictable things happen. The sense of omnipresent danger here is a stark contrast to the empty world surrounding it. Random packs of elite enemies patrol the streets and lurk behind abandoned buildings, and other agents run around either shooting at them or shooting at you. Your allies in one moment could be your killers in the next. The temptation to prey on a weaker player creates a tense, dynamic environment that should keep looking over my shoulder. You'd think it would devolve into mass chaos and griefing, but thanks to a few vital design elements, it doesn't. The Dark Zone and its vendors have some of the best gear you'll find anywhere. Since it's the most heavily contaminated area in Manhattan, everything there has to be decontaminated before you can bring it outside and use it. To do this, you must reach a designated extraction zone and call a helicopter to come ferry your loot off to be processed and dropped at your stash at HQ. With NPCs swarming the land zone, the stage is set for high heroics and some dastardly double crosses. And one of my most memorable moments, blah 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 blah, I'd likely have even more memorable war stories to tell, possibly with me as the aggressor, but the developer Massive has tilted the risk-reward balance dramatically against the player who would consider attacking other players to steal their loot. The potential rewards are currently far outweighed by the risk of being labeled as a rogue, being hunted zone-wide, and potentially losing hours worth of Dark Zone rank progress as punishment. I get the need to keep it up from being so attractive that everyone goes rogue all the time. Right now, they've limited the allure of betrayal to the point where I just wasn't willing to risk it. It very much needs adjustment, and hopefully that will happen. But for now, the Dark Zone is playing a bit too safe. No, they did this because people complained about it before. You have no clue what the fuck you're talking about. Like, you apparently want the game to be like GTA Online, where everybody's just killing everybody, and just running around the map, murdering everybody just because. But in this game, it would be like, you'd have a reason to murder them because you can steal their loot. No, they tried that already, with the betas, and the community told them, "Hey, tired of getting shot at and going wrong." So they listened, going rogue. So they listened to the feedback, and they kind of balanced it out a bit. So if you want a game where everybody's just killing everybody, and you have the drive to do that, go play GTA Online, dude. That's more your strong foot. Regardless, heading back to the real world beyond the dark zone walls is always a deflating experience. The dark zone is where the real action is. It fixes about every problem I have with the Division's pacing, its lack of player-driven moments, and the overall toothlessness and emptiness of the open world. I'd feel much better if the dark zone were bigger, or at least a better integrated part of the Division's main gameplay loop, but it's literally gated off and kept separate instead. That's for a reason, you moron. That's so people who don't want to deal with it don't have to. There are some people who are, believe it or not, there are some people that are only interested in the PvP areas or only the PvE areas. And so that's why, instead of forcing everybody to, go through all of it, they give you the option of, doing PvE, PvP, or doing both if you want to. There's a reason it's gated off. It's the most highly contaminated zone in the city. That's kind of why you put on the mask as soon as you enter the dark zone. How much more of an idiot could you be? No matter how well you do in the dark zone, it never affects anything other than your loot. So until you hit the cap and have shifted your focus from level progression to loot progression, going there feels like wasted time. No, not really. I haven't even hit the level cap yet, and it's always nice to go to the dark zone and find, some good gear that'll, last you for a while, even after you level up, and you can just keep it for a while instead of, having to deal with the inconvenience of going out and getting more loot. Let's skip to the verdict, because I'm already tired of this, dude. There's definitely some decent meat to chew on in the Division, but it's usually surrounded by too much gristle to enjoy it for long. Both in combat and out, there are some clearly good ideas, especially the tense and dangerous dark zone, but they're not spread evenly or interwoven cleanly enough to form a cohesive, consistently enjoyable loop. Ultimately, the Division's overly busy, conflicted design philosophies drown its best ingredients in a bland slurry that never quite comes together into a cohesive dish. So they gave it a 6.7, which immediately made me tell them fuck you. And their positives are beautiful world, good RPG elements, solid combat. Their negatives are static open world, their positives are beautiful world, good RPG elements, solid combat. But you just complained that the combat was bullet spongy. What? What is wrong with you? Who let you write this article? Static, and the negatives are static open world, thin end game. Okay, so you know how back in the, I don't know if some of you guys are like old enough to remember this, but there used to be this gaming show called G4 TV. Well, it was a gaming channel, but there was a show called X-Play, and they were known for being, highly critical in the reviews, but it was funny, because it's like you were free to have your own opinion, but you expected them to like just tear a game apart, and they did it in a comedy kind of way, and it was funny to see. And of course they got their raging fanboys, but it was just one of the funniest things to look at, because even if you had a different opinion on the game, it was kind of just funny to watch how they tore the game apart. But with IGN, this kind of thing is not funny at all. Like whoever wrote this article, don't let him make any more gaming reviews. Let's just look at the comments real quick. Just make sure Vince isn't somehow allowed to review Daredevil. Well, this dude took 7 days reviewing it, only to give it a 6.7. I've heard good things about it, and thanks to the word of mouth, I might get it for myself. People are actually having fun, and like the one Ubisoft game, IGN decided to give a mediocre review score. Sorry, I'm trying to Make sure my audio is right while I'm reading these. But yeah, what I'd recommend. This is why I don't, look at IGN for reviews anymore. I prefer to buy these kinds of games myself. I prefer to, at this point, because it feels to me like gaming has become too saturated with people who feel self-entitled and think they're cool for dissing every game that's been released since like 2013. Like there hasn't been one game since 2013 that hasn't had a bunch of fucking weeaboo nerds in the comments, or reviewers, or especially on Steam. People on Steam are the worst about reviews, that just find every little reason to nitpick at a game to try to sound professional and try to sound like they know what they're talking about, instead of just forming their own opinion. And then there's those that see that and they're like, hey, that guy sounds smart, that guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about, so they hop on the bandwagon too. And that's what's been happening since 2013. So since 2013, I haven't really factored anybody's review into whether or not I decide I like a game or whether or not I decide to buy it, because at this point it's better if I just buy it, find out for myself if I like it, and if I don't, oh well, these things happen. The game just isn't for me. Like I'm getting so tired of what the gaming community has become as far as how their opinions work now. But that's a rant for another video. Let's look at some more of the comments. Also came to say that The Division deserves higher than this for a lot of the reasons others listed. Remember when the IGN review by the 5? Review the 5, by the way. What would be the real difference between the 6.7 and the 6.8? I am sitting here wanting nothing more than to be playing this right now. Shows how out of sync I am with the opinion of IGN writers. I can live with that. When reviewers go bad. So like, yeah, these people are just tearing this dude apart in the comments section, and I feel no urge to defend the stupid fucking article he made. And whoever was, because there's always, I can't remember how the whole gaming journalism thing works. It's been a while. I think there's like the writers that submit it, and then there's like the head guy that's like, hey, your article's the best, we're gonna go with yours. You allowed this to happen. Fuck you in particular. But yeah, if you look at their comments on their article, or just their like to dislike ratio on the actual video review itself on YouTube, they are just getting destroyed right now. And I can't blame the community for being mad, because yeah, you have your edgy little shitlords in the comments like, you guys are just mad because IGN made an honest review and blah blah blah. No, fuck off. You group of people in particular, fuck off. And that's really all I gotta say about it. So I don't know, this is like a 50-minute long rant. Jesus, I'm gonna have to cut it down, maybe cut out some of the rambling. But yeah, just let me know what you guys think in the comments below, because I'm really tired of this whole self-entitled wave of gamers thing. This whole self-entitled wave of gamers, and that just nitpick at every fucking thing, just so they can, say something negative and make it sound like they know what they're talking about. But yeah, I'll catch you guys later.